"He is like a brown John Brown," says one courtier of Abdul Karim, who was Queen Victoria's servant and companion in later life, and is the subject of the new Stephen Frears film Victoria and Abdul. And therein lies the real fear about Karim's place in the Queen's affections, not that he was foreign, from the empire, from the lower middle classes or much younger than her, but because he was brown. The relationship violated Victorian taboos of race and class, and the household and royal family hated Karim. Almost immediately, they wanted him out of the palace. Any discussion of royalty as pervaded by an obsession with blood purity and unbroken lines of inheritance for both power and genes. Until recently, the fathers of royal brides had to swear their daughters were virgins, and when the law was changed in 2013 to allow girls to succeed to the throne with the same rights as boys, there was a debate over whether adopted children or even those conceived through IVF should be allowed those rights, and the obsession with lines and blood is often couched in notions of racial superiority. The phrase blue blood, generally used now to denote royalty, comes from the Spanish singer Azul, meaning someone whose skin was so pale you could see blue veins, differentiating the royals from both the tan peasants working in the fields and the people of color who were increasingly part of European society. We might think things have moved on in multiracial Britain, but when news broke that Prince Harry was dating Meghan Markle, there was, as the prince pointed out in a statement from Kensington Palace, racial undertones in the coverage. Her mother's neighborhood was described as being famous for gangs and the largest street crime collectives in Los Angeles. Another article noted her diverse family background as a fact readers would be shocked to know. As Prince Harry's statement put it, a line had been crossed. In 1887, Abdul Karim was sent over as one of 2 Indian servants for the Queen's table at the Golden Jubilee. She was 68. He was 24. Victoria was enchanted by the idea of being Empress of India, a country she would never see, and when Karim told her stories about India, she was fascinated. He quickly became her tutor, or munshi. As she wrote, "I am learning a few words of Hindustani. Young Abdul teaches me. He's a very strict master and a perfect gentleman." Victoria preferred male confidants. She was called Mrs. Melbourne and Mrs. Disraeli over her dependence on prime ministers, and later Mrs. Brown. Prince Albert had died 26 years earlier and her previous servant, John Brown, died in 1883. Karim filled a space in her life, but he was reviled in ways Brown never was. For the Victorians, marriage was about both sex and power. It seemed to them that Victoria was subordinate to Karim, and even though she was long past childbearing age, here was an Indian man in intimate settings with a monarch, and that was shocking to the Victorian court. By 1894, Karim was always at royal receptions and held the position of Her Majesty's Indian Secretary. The court tried everything to displace him, pronouncing that his father had been an apothecary, not the surgeon Karim had said, and so he was too low class to be a secretary. To make out the munshi is low is really outrageous, Victoria wrote. She refused to listen, gave him 3 houses and brought his Indian wife to live at the court. The Queen described herself to him as your loving mother, visited him in his bedroom when he was ill and published photographs of them together. It was only after she was told that people thought her insane that she backed down on knighting him in 1897, the year of her Diamond Jubilee. But after her death, Karim was abruptly sent back to India by the new king, Edward VII, and made to give up all the letters and mementos the Queen had given him. The obsession with bloodlines makes the idea of royals marrying people of color, or even having non-white heritage themselves, difficult for the press and public to stomach. Royals tend to be offered a small circle of potential spouses, the same class, religion and ethnicity. Thus Diana Spencer, from a preeminent aristocratic family, was celebrated as the first commoner to marry an heir since 1659, and after her divorce, when the princess dated first the surgeon Hasnat Khan and then Dodi Fayed, the press hysteria had racist undertones. To bring non-white blood into the royal family is seen as the ultimate scandal. In 1664, Louis Xiv France's second daughter, Marie Anne, was born early. The rumor grew that she was a black child, probably fathered by the Queen's African dwarf, Nabo, but witness accounts say she was not black but very dark, and it may be that she was of the purplish color that can denote oxygen deprivation in premature babies. She had a weak constitution and died not long after her birth, but the idea that the king had hidden her away gained traction. for it seemed the most shocking secret possible, not just because the Queen would have been unfaithful, but that it must have been with a black man. And there is Queen Charlotte, the German wife of Mad King George III and mother of his 15 children. The historian and TV producer Marius Y. Valdez Y. Cocom argues that she was Britain's first black queen, for her bloodline descended from a Portuguese noblewoman, who was in turn descended from a 13th-century king and his mistress, Madrigana, who may have been a Moor. 18th-century commentators said she had negroid features, and a royal doctor declared her as having a true mulatto face. If Valdez is correct, all the royal family would have black heritage, including Victoria and the modern royals, but historians are not certain of Madrigana's ethnicity. She may have been a Mozarab or Iberian Christian, and the comments may be founded in a cruel and racist alignment between black and ugly. The Queen was always mocked as unattractive in the 18th century and since. Similarly, when Disney created a black princess, Tiana, in their retelling of The Princess and the Frog in 2009, there was outcry that she wasn't a real princess. Princesses, it seems, must be pale, blue-eyed and beautiful, and anyone who is not is of a lesser status. When the food writer Emma McQuiston, who starred on the cover of Tatler's Britain's first black marchioness, married the heir to Longleat, Viscount Weymouth, the groom said his mother's reaction was, "Are you sure about what you're doing to 400 years of bloodline?" There was racist reaction when Prince Maximilian of Liechtenstein, second son of the reigning prince, married New York fashion designer Angela Brown in 2000. She and her son, Prince Alfonso, are currently the highest-ranking black members of a reigning European dynasty. Markle herself has noted the racism she and her family have been subject to in her struggle to define her identity as biracial, in her own words half black and half white. In 2015, she told Elle magazine that she was constantly being asked, "What are you?" If she replied an actress, they would insist, "No, but what are you? Where are your parents from?" In Series 2 of Suits, the father of her character Rachel Zane was introduced, and he was played by the African-American actor Wendell Pierce. As she told Elle, the responses ranged from, "Why would they make her dad black? She's not black to you. She's black. I used to think she was hot." In this month's Vanity Fair cover and feature shoot, Markle noted that most photographers airbrush out her freckles, and she was keen for them to be shown. Will Markle marry Prince Harry? If so, as the prince is currently 5th in line to the throne, and will drop to 6th next year when the Cambridge's third child is born, Harry and Meghan's child is unlikely to rule the country. But, in a court and household that is still about as white as it was in Victoria's day, perhaps change has to start at the top.